What's going on, guys? Cyn for the win here, and it's about time we've talked about it. The meetings have officially begun. John Tavares is meeting with teams. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Sharks' chances are to get him if he ends up leaving New York, and even in general, and kind of talk about the cap situation for the Sharks for the next couple years. And I have notes here because I've kind of come up with, rough numbers about what it'll look like for the Sharks. Their most pressing contracts to get under, and sort of what those things are going to cost. So let's get down to it. I mean, we've heard he's meeting with a few teams. Those teams have been known as Boston, Tampa, San Jose, Toronto, and Dallas. Now, those are the 5 teams that he's meeting with. Out of those 5 teams, you got to think which ones you consider like the true competitors, and then think about the salary cap situations. Like, I would assume Dallas would probably be able to have the cap available, but would you consider them a true competitor? That's, I think, is Tavares just going to about the same team just out west? New York Islanders kind of like, they might be able to make the playoffs. They probably don't get out of the first, second round, but they might be able to make the playoffs, but they, in my opinion, won't be considered true competitors until at least 2 to 3 years, more likely 3 to 5 to be considered one of those top competitors each year. I'm not talking about just making the playoffs. I'm talking about being considered, one of those guys who should get into the second, third, maybe even all the way. Boston and Tampa, they have tough cap situations. I mean, don't get me wrong. It would be absolutely filthy to have Tavares and Bergeron as your 1-2 punches at center. But then you got to think Krejci's gone. Like, Krejci's a good player. I think he's a little underrated. And you give him a power forward next to him to play with. It's been shown. Lucic next to him, they did well together. When Nash was there, not so much in the playoffs, but during, the season, they did very well together. So, again, yeah, perhaps Boston, maybe has the room, but someone's going to have to go out. Obviously, you probably would sacrifice Krejci to do that, but you have to make moves to make it happen. They don't have the cap readily available. Same kind of story with Tampa. And I don't know, man, how are you going to have Stamkos and Tavares? One of them's going to have to play wing or something. Like, I don't see it working with 1 and 2 with those two guys. Those guys are both number 1s in my opinion. And I know the Lightning don't have the cap available. They have to trade a pretty significant piece to make this happen. Nevertheless, they're meeting with him. So maybe, I don't know what their plan is. Maybe for him to take a massive pay cut or someone to take a massive pay cut, and they just try to build a super team, which would be very scary. But I don't know if NHL arbitration would let them get away with that. So on Toronto, which is another one I've heard tons of, I'm going to save San Jose for last because that's going to be the main topic here, as I'm, Sharks fan. That's what I do, talk about them. On Toronto's case, I don't think it's the right move for Toronto. And that's not just because I want Tavares. I think it's a stupid move to go after Tavares if you're Toronto. Like, I understand he's a big old free agent. I think you're going to end up with another Kessel situation if you do that. You need defense, Toronto. That's what you need. You need defense. Plain and simple. It's been exposed time and time again throughout the regular season, throughout the playoffs. Yeah, we all know you can score. You can score at will, but you don't have defense. So, I mean, yeah, you can go after Tavares, but you're losing Matthews, Marner, or Nylander. For sure. That's a guarantee. Like, one of them has to be gone. You got to think about what Matthews is going to make when he's off his entry level. McDavid's making 12.5. Eichel's making 10. I think McDavid is around those guys in skill level, so you got to think that's another 10, probably 10 to 12, unless you somehow get him for way under. Is he going to get Draisaitl money? If he gets 8 or something, which would be really great, it'd be a bargain. But I don't know, with the precedent that's been set by these number one, these really high quality centers, and you look at Eichel, he's making 10 mil. He hasn't even made it to the playoffs yet. He hasn't even shown what he can do in the playoffs. Matthews has had that chance twice. So it's I don't know. It's all up for grabs. And then what do Marner and Nylander make? I think they don't make anything less than 7 when they're ready for their deals. I don't think they make anything less than 7. I wouldn't put them on towards the Draisaitl area, but I think they'd at least make 7. So like I said, one of them's gonna have to go, and then it still leaves you with the problem of you have no defense. So Toronto, I wouldn't get excited. I wouldn't try to get this. Like I said, you might end up getting him. It's his home and stuff like that, but I don't think it helps your team that much. You're just getting more offense on a team that doesn't struggle to score, and you're not plugging up the defensive holes. That's just my opinion. Maybe you guys have amazing defensemen in your system coming up. I know you got a couple good ones, but Liljegren ain't ready yet, and I don't think he's going to be that. In my opinion, he's another kind of puck mover offensive guy. So where's your shutdown? Like that, you're lacking the shutdown. I mean, you're having to rely on Polak for shutdown right now. Don't put yourself into that situation. Take it from a Sharks fan. Do not put yourself in a situation to be relying on Polak for shutdown. Okay, 2016. Okay, all right. Now on to the Sharks, and this is, and I'm going to come from as much of a non-biased standpoint as I can. I think this team does have the best chance if he leaves New York, if he leaves the Islanders. I think the Sharks have the best chance out of the other teams to get the signing. As of right now, the Sharks have $21.2 million of cap available after Bodker trade and the Paul Martin buyout. Now that's real. Now obviously, Hertl, Tierney, DeMello, Jumbo, all without contracts. But one of them might be out. It might be Jumbo. It might be something, but Jumbo has been quoted as saying he was willing to take a massive pay cut. He's been talking with Doug Wilson. They've been kind of doing these weird hinting things about him really, really wanting to come back and kind of wanting to do anything that's possible. And he's coming off making $8 million in a year where he didn't play full season and didn't play in the playoffs. So maybe Thornton's of the mentality he wants to kick back to the team now a little bit. And I'm talking he'll take a pay cut. He'll be in the 3 or under range. I'm not even kidding. He's going to be playing most likely third line and some power play, but probably going to get sat some games. The Sharks have a lot of centers, and if they get Tierney back in that, I would say that Thornton maybe only plays half the season. So, yeah, he's going to be taking a sizable cut. Now, you can think that maybe the NHL didn't let you get away with that, or that it's it's kind of screwed up to do to him. But I think Thornton's made his money. I think he just wants to win, and he wants to win in teal. He loves this place. That's the culture here in San Jose. Everyone loves playing here. And, like, people are, at this point, people are willing to do whatever it takes to lose. Now, or win, sorry. And I don't know. I'm speculating on Thornton. And, honestly, if it came down to it, keeping, like, him or Tierney, I like Tierney, but he's got a lot still to work on with his game. I don't want to give up the young guys, but Maybe it's just sentimental. I want Thornton to win in teal, so I don't know. But, okay, let's break it down numbers-wise. So, Hertl, that's the biggest one, I think. He's going to be what the biggest contract is. I've heard speculation that of other people outside that think he should be making 5 to 6. Now, you're probably right, but Doug Wilson is very, very smart with his contracts. He has set up a tiered system. When people come off their entry levels, there's a pattern to the way they progress up and get more money. The first couple years off that, you're going to be making in the $1 million to $2 million range as you work on the third, fourth line and things like that. Next contract is going to be around the 2 to 3 marker as maybe you're asserting yourself in towards the top 9 if you're an offensive threat. Maybe getting a bit of power play time here and there or a penalty kill, whichever one. That's what Hertl's on right now. The 3 by 3 dealer is like 3.3 or something by that. Next step above that is your start is not quite the your main guy contract, like the Coutures, the Pavelskis, the Thorntons, the Marlows. They got in the $7 million range, and if you adjusted it for the cap now, it might make $8 million range or so like that. Hertl is not there yet. He's still 24. He's got a 2 to 3 year window right here where he's going to be making 4 to 5. That's just how Doug has set it up. He set that precedent, and that's the progression system within the San Jose Sharks. So let's say Hertl makes 5. We'll give it the max. You subtract 5 for that. Hertl, DeMello, those guys are in that 1 to 2 range. So you say 1 to 2 for both of those. Even if you give it the 4, that's a 9. Take away from Jumbo, or just leave him out for now. Let's say the 9 mil, even if we get all those 3 guys, which I would be probably willing to sacrifice DeMello. We have plenty of defensemen as well. So we get those 3 guys. That's at the max range. That's still 9 mil. That's 9 mil gone out of 21.2. So you still have North. Basically, I would still have the 12. And I think, and like I said, I'm being generous with those prices. I think it'll be less for both Tierney and DeMello. And like I said, we sacrifice one, you take that out completely. Still money to get Jumbo in that kind of what I think is going to be a third line / depth role. And Jumbo, what it sounds like he's willing just to take whatever's left. Like, at least that's what I'm getting off of him. I've had the guy on my team for a long time. That's the vibe I'm kind of getting. He just wants to win. He's made his money. He wants to win, man, and he's willing to make a better team at the sacrifices of his own, and that's kind of player Jumbo's always been. So it is math. It's all mathematically possible. Realistically, Sharks are going to have to sacrifice someone. Tierney, DeMello, one of those two. But like I said, they've set themselves in a really good situation cap-wise by setting those precedents, so everyone kind of knows what they're going to expect in the coming years. So, and like I said, it's they're gonna have to be careful with how they do it, obviously, because in the next year you're gonna have Couture and Pavelski coming off contract. Now, the bonus with this is I actually see that evening out. I don't think there's going to be any sort of deficit or surplus when it comes to those signings. And I'll show you what I mean. Pavelski's, 33, 34. So he's still got another year. By the time he gets that, we'd be 34, 35. That's the decline. That's when I think he would probably actually start making less money. Like right now he's making 6-something. I think when he signs his new contract, it'll be 2 to 3 mil for 2 to 3 years for 5 mil. That's what I think. Like I said, he is beginning to decline. He will most likely be moving down on the depth chart really soon, especially with Kane up there, especially with other young guys proving their worth. Donskoy, Sorensen even I think has a possibility to start playing in a scoring role. He was really good in the playoffs. Timo Meier, I think he's going to be at least second liner. Maybe even he's played on the first line. Hurdle, I think he could be a first liner eventually. So Couture is pretty much on that second line, firmly in there as that center role, exploiting matchups and such like that. So I think he's the one who gets the slight increase. Probably no more than 7 to 8 because of where he's playing, because of what his role is on the team. And Pavelski, with that 1 or so million decrease, I think it evens itself out. So you create no problems with yourself. The cap still goes up. And the Sharks are looking good. Justin Braun is another issue. Again, I don't think he has that big of a pay increase for what his role is. Now, he's an underrated player, and he should be making more. But, also got to think that Vlasic is also kind of a guy who really, really helps carry him. Now, they're great together, but obviously Vlasic's far, far superior as a defensive player. So Braun's not going to get nearly as much as him. I still think he's going to be making a little more than 3, but by the time he signs that contract, the percentage value of that will be very similar. So you can't really think of it in terms of millions a lot. You have to think of it in terms of percentages. And so I've tried to do that roughly. Y'all know I'm not the best at math or anything like that. Use a calculator for my goddamn franchise signings, but that's why I wrote it down here. So yeah, right now the cap is $79.5 million. The Sharks have $58.3 million committed to players, which leaves them with that $21.2 available to make moves. Oh yeah, and by the way, when those Pavelski and Couture need those new contracts, I think that's the end of Paul Martin's buyout penalty. So that's an extra 1 point something mil that they'll be getting back, or 2. It was almost as 2 mil. So that's another thing you got to think about. Yeah, like I said, and pros and cons of each place. Boston, original 6 team, good, a tough team to play against. They have that reputation, a tough team to play against, crazy fans, and they're a competitor. But the cap situation, the center core situation, does Tavares kind of fit the culture of play in Boston? Because Boston's very specific about having their culture of play. That's why they traded fucking Sagan, for God's sakes, because their culture of play. I know it was Chiarelli who'd do it, but still, there's that argument. Tampa, like I said, they'd have to move a very, very significant piece to get Tavares. Not to say that they won't do it. And all right, so I think a lot of the pluses in Tampa are a lot of the pluses in San Jose. Great weather, very luxurious places to live, a competitive team. A great management and a pretty good winning, hockey culture displayed in the last few years. Toronto, pros and cons, hometown. The biggest cons that I see are the media and the big spotlight, and I think he might want to shy away from that at this point. Like, he's been the guy in the New York Islanders and hasn't really, come to anything. So going to a team like in Toronto, yeah, he might not be the guy on the ice, but the media will treat him as such. They're going to tell him, you're making this much money, you got to produce this much, even if he's getting second line time and whatever people think he's going to do, or playing on the wing or something like that. He'll have to adjust to a position. I don't know. But yeah, obviously the pros are the money's there, and it's, hometown, and it's Canada, it's home. Like, that's, that makes a lot of sense. Now, Dallas, plenty of cap. But like I said, they're the ones I don't see the biggest upside. And again, will Sagan be second line? Or is Sagan going to move to wing? I don't know, but I don't watch Dallas, so... I don't know. And then you still kind of have a situation where your defense still isn't that great in Dallas. It's improving, but still needs work. Goaltending, very iffy still in Dallas. So yeah, that's the least likely I see of Tavares signing. And because it's kind of a similar situation to where he's at in New York, kind of an in-between team who could make the playoffs, but I don't think they're considered one of the top competitors. In San Jose, like I said, very similar to Tampa. Great weather, great place to live, great living space, great management here. They're very clear, very open about what they do. They, we don't mince words. We don't, try to usually sell people out to the media and stuff like that, or whatever, or trade people character issues or call them out on it and stuff like that. In a very relaxed place. There's not a whole lot of cameras in their face, not a big spotlight. And if he comes here, he's not going to be expected to be the guy. He won't have to make all our points. We expect him, obviously to be close to point a game because that's what he's done in his career. But we're not going to treat him as a savior, a McDavid, or anything like that. He's going to be our first line center, and he's playing around guys like Couture, Pavelski, Vander Kane, Tomas Hertl, Timo Meier, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, Brent Burns, Martin Jones. I mean, guys who have been in the playoffs for years, years and years and years, and it's that's the culture in San Jose. It's the players love playing there, and we're a winning team, and we make the playoffs. So those are the upsides. Very similar to Tampa. The advantage we have is the cap room. So I think that San Jose checks every single mark. Every single mark. That's kind of what I think Tavares is looking for and should be looking for in his career. Now, what it comes down to is he loyal to a fault when it comes to New York? Because like I said, even if he resigns there, they are not a guaranteed competitor for at least another 2 to 3 years. Most likely 3 to 5. And that's just the blunt truth of it in New York. Where's your goaltender? Where's your solid defensive core? You drafted incredibly, but you can't rely on oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Dobson, there we go. Dobson, Wallstrom, and yeah. So Wallstrom, obviously, the winger coming up with Barzal. It's gonna be freaking filthy. But again, these are all things that are gonna take a couple years to really turn into elite, and then really see these are pieces you build around. So that's why I'm giving that 3-year thing. So that's what I mean. I think San Jose ticks every single box. So if Tavares does leave the New York Islanders, I do think the Sharks have the best chance. So whatever, call me a homer or whatever. But I think, well, for what Tavares is looking for and should be looking for, that San Jose hits every single one of those markers to a T. The spot for a first-line center being one of those big ones, too. He won't have to transition to another really position or anything like that. So, yeah, that's kind of my breakdown on this whole situation. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I'm hoping we're not disappointed that he just, it just decides to stay. But, he might just pull a Stamkos thing. You never know. But I think Stamkos was staying in Tampa no matter what, because they were a guaranteed competitor for the most part. New York is, again, I think a few steps behind where Tampa was. So, he might stay, but I don't think that's the right decision for his career. And I'm not just saying that because I want him. I don't foresee the Islanders being one of those, guaranteed competitors. And here, if he goes to a team like Boston, Tampa, or the Sharks, for these next 3 years, he's pretty much guaranteed to make the playoffs and go to probably at least the second round in each of the times. That's beyond what he's really ever done in his career. You got to think of it from that perspective too. I mean, it's not just it's there's so much more to hockey than just the numbers and just the games. I mean, you got to think of it like the off-ice stuff, especially. He won't have to be relied on that much in places like Tampa or San Jose. There's not as much media in places like Tampa and San Jose. The weather's great. So you got to think of it. He's going to be having to live in there for 7 years. You got to think about that. So it's big, man, and I cannot wait. Like I said, I cannot wait to see what happens. So I hope you guys appreciated my analysis. Try to stay as objective as possible while still, being a Sharks fan and wearing my Sharks jersey, because that's just how I am, man. But always consider myself, a hockey fan first and foremost, Sharks fan very close second. All right, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember to leave that like if you did. Join in the discussion, and seriously, and I want to hear especially from Toronto fans, since I hope I didn't, sound like I was bashing you earlier. But how do you guys really expect to improve that defense if you do get Tavares, and who leaves? And would you be able to get anything back from return worth it for that person leaving, such as Nylander or Marner? Because I don't think there's any way you get rid of Matthews. So yeah, especially you guys. I want to hear from you guys about that. All right, so there's my breakdown on the whole Tavares situation. We'll see what happens in the next few days for sure. But fingers crossed for San Jose. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one. If watching my videos just isn't enough sin for you, be sure to go over there on Twitter and shoot me a follow, and you could even join our Discord server as well to talk with some of the other sinners out there. The links to both are in the description.